Welcome, everyone. You are joining us live from Ithaca, New York, home of Cornell University. I am Heather Kolakowski, the Executive Director for the Cornell Institute for Healthy Futures. I'm excited you have joined us for this great hour of programming we have put together today for our webinar, Responsible Sourcing in Hospitality, Strategies for Wellness, Sustainability, and Social Impact. This event is being recorded and will be viewable at the same URL afterwards. You may submit questions in the chat, which you can open by clicking the dialog box at the top right of your video player. Throughout our discussion, we'll be sharing URLs and resources in the chat as well, so heads up for those. And if you're watching an archived recording, those links are available in the overview section just below. For those of you who may not know, the Cornell Institute for Healthy Futures is the first academic center in the country to combine hospitality, environmental design, and health policy and management into a broad-based platform to improve service in healthcare, wellness, senior living, and related industries. Through our network of academic and industry professionals, we collaborate and share ideas to focus on our vision of a society where everyone receives excellent health and wellness-related services in well-managed, well-designed, and hospitable facilities. The hospitality industry depends on products that are sourced from a wide range of partners, and the choices that are made along the supply chain can carry significant influence, shaping guest experiences and supporting the health of our communities. From furniture, fixtures, and equipment in the built environment to amenities and retail items that are offered on property, all of our purchasing decisions rippled outward, impacting wellness, sustainability, and brand perception. Today, we're going to examine the sustainability landscape within hospitality procurement and highlight how supply chain responsibility can drive business value. Our panel will offer strategies for weaving stronger sustainability practices into organizational culture and explain how thoughtful buying decisions can support community well-being while enhancing our guest relationships. The conversation will also explore how storytelling, such as sharing the product origins and engaging in consumers around common values, can boost revenue and build lasting brand loyalty. Today, we will hear insights and key takeaways from a Nolan Hotel School lecturer, Lisa Chervinsky, a leading voice in sustainable tourism, Joanna Abrams, who is the founder and CEO of MindClick Inc., and a social impact leader, Jen Collins, co-founder and president of Procure Impact. Part educational, part inspirational, we are going to identify ways to advance organizational stability in rethinking sourcing and procurement. We want to provide ideas and practices that you can adopt in your professional arenas and hopefully spark additional initiatives and endeavors and innovations. So I have to say, as we've prepared over the past several weeks for this webinar, I have learned so much from our panelists, and we've had such a robust discussion about this particular topic, and I'm excited to share their experiences. So first, I'd like to start with a brief kind of round robin introduction, and I'm going to ask Joanna to start.
Thank you so much, Heather. It's such a pleasure to be here today and to be joined by Lisa and Jen. Really looking forward to the conversation. So I lead MindClick. MindClick is what we call a product intelligence company. You can think of what we do as a nutrition label for products, with the focus being on how those products support health and wellness, not only for people, but also for the environment and the community. And through our data and analytics that come from our product intelligence, we help organizations understand the impact of their purchasing choices, make better purchasing choices, and put the story together to support the communication out to investors, out to corporate travel buyers, to the associates at hotels, and of course to the guests. And I will turn it over to Lisa.
Thanks, Joanna. Thanks, Heather and Jen. I'm really glad to be here and have this conversation with you today. My name is Lisa Chervinsky, and I am a licensed architect and assistant teaching professor at the Cornell Nolan Hotel School. I teach courses in hospitality, design, development, and visioning. I also operate my own interior design firm, Collective Vision Design, where I'm really focused on creating experiences for guests And when I think about sustainability and wellness, I really think about the potential to truly differentiate your property in a way that you can really forge stronger connections with your guests, earning brand loyalty, but also it has tremendous potential to drive revenue. Jen, you want to take it from there?
Sure. Thank you, Lisa. Thanks, Heather and Joanna. It's so great to be here. My name is Jen Collins. I am the president and co-founder of Procure Impact. I'm also a hotel school alum, so it's great to be back in the Cornell community. Procure Impact is an award-winning platform that connects hospitality brands with mission-driven and story-rich products. So we make it easy for hotels to source with purpose at scale, while giving local and diverse suppliers access to meaningful, high-impact distribution. So myself, I have a background in hospitality after graduating from the hotel school, spent about the first 20 years of my career predominantly on the ownership side, and then pivoted into social impact for a handful of years. And now Procure Impact personally is a beautiful way for me to kind of braid my backgrounds together. So I'm very excited for this conversation. It's near and dear to my heart.
Excellent. I like how you said that, braid your experiences together, because you definitely are a storyteller. So that's great. Thank you again for everyone for being here. Before we dive too deeply into our topic, we would like to first set the framework of how we're actually defining sustainability in this context of supply chain and procurement in hospitality, because there's a lot of different perspectives on this particular phrase and topic. So Lisa, do you want to go ahead and start?
Sure. I think that when most people think about sustainability, they're really thinking about green building and energy efficiency. However, it really encompasses so much more of that. When you look to the UN Sustainable Development Goals, they're really overarching. It's really about being a good steward to the environment, as well as responsible consumption, access to clean air and water, and economical or equitable economic opportunities for a broad range of people. And so when you really take all of these goals together, it's very much about enhancing wellness for both the individual and the community.
Excellent. So a nice framework to kind of start the conversation and think about. I'd like Joanna to share a little bit about your impact through MindClick. That'll also help us.
Excellent. And if we could advance to this slide, fantastic. So it really starts from the premise that Arne Sorensen understood years ago when he said that in order for our industry to be more sustainable, we need to think about greening the global supply chain. That seems like a pretty daunting task, and the supply chain for hotels are massive when you think about all the products that go into building, furnishing, supplying, and operating hotels. Really, we're a service industry that's dependent upon the products that others make. So for hotels to be able to stand up their leadership in sustainability, it starts with what are manufacturers doing to help them solve that challenge. And the ways in which hotels are measured on their sustainability performance, it starts with some of the basics, right? What is happening with respect to the amount of energy that a hotel generates, translated into a carbon room night factor. It's also looking at water conservation and what's being done by the hotel to minimize or conserve water. Another very big area of focus is on waste. And hotels generate quite a bit of waste, obviously, with guests coming in and out. There's the waste that the guests generate. But when you think about what goes into building, furnishing, renovating hotels, and the day in, day out products that come in, there's a tremendous amount of waste related to packaging. So back to the theme of greening the global supply chain, that is a very active term, which implies that there is measurement happening, right? It starts with what is the foundation of a product performance, and then what can a manufacturer do to improve upon that performance. So this is what MindClick does, amongst many things, which is we provide a scorecard that helps manufacturers understand the impact that their products are having on their customers, the hotels, and then the community at large, right? So when you think about the amount of packaging, when you think about case goods that go into the guest rooms, there's a tremendous amount of waste associated with that. Berman Falk is a manufacturer who is in the MindClick Sustainability Assessment Program, which is our scoring mechanism and continuous improvement mechanism. And we recently completed a project where they were involved in the renovation of the Huntington Hotel. It's a Highgate owned and managed property in San Francisco that just recently opened, and it's a hotel with a very rich heritage and deep history, with Ken Falk being the designer who led the reimagination and bringing back the hotel to its roots. And so a big part of the story is also tied to how is that hotel supporting the community in the way in which it was renovated. Well, Berman Falk played a huge part in that because of the fact that as a result of a change they made in packaging, they helped eliminate 20 dump trucks worth of construction waste. If we advance to the next slide. So how they got to that point was that it started with MindClick scoring their packaging, and case goods come typically from different parts of Asia, and they're an expensive item. They're an item that needs to be fully protected in distribution. And so styrofoam has been the go-to packaging material. But we know styrofoam has huge problems for us. It takes 500 years for it to decompose. As it's decomposing, it breaks down into microplastics. And we know that this harms the health of in our water streams and in our soils, and it gets into our consumption and it affects our health. So anything that can be done to eliminate styrofoam is a win-win. So as a result of our ratings, the Berman Falk leadership team said, let's take a look at what we can do differently. So if you advance to the next slide, they spent a year re-engineering their packaging and replacing it with 100% biodegradable honeycomb, which is made from your typical cardboard type product, and basically took styrofoam and microplastics off the spec sheet, as we say. So if you advance to the next slide for me. So this is what it looks like, this new packaging. And it's not only is it supporting health and wellness by the fact that it's eliminating microplastics and eliminating the amount of waste that ends up in the landfill, but it's also saving money because styrofoam takes up more space than this honeycomb, biodegradable honeycomb packaging solution. So it takes more trucks to go from the construction site to the landfill. And each time you're moving a truck to go to the landfill, you pay something called tipping fees. So this is what we call kind of a triple win, right? Where you've got a product that is helping the health and the environment, reducing waste, and it's saving the owners money tied to tipping fees. So as we move to the next slide, this is what's really staggering. So 20 fewer dump trucks in the landfill is 175 cubic meters of styrofoam construction waste that has been eliminated. That is the equivalent of 1.75 million single-use water bottles. In order to generate that many water bottles, that would be a typical 200-room full-service hotel operating over 6 years. So the magnitude of this is just staggering. And so when we think about hotel sustainability, there's a lot of focus on, getting rid of single-use plastics, right? And with one case goods order in one category of packaging, the impact is massive. If you go to the next slide, now let's spread this across the US hotel market. 891 openings are happening in 2026. If every project that, assuming they all had case goods that were being, replaced, or if it's a new build being installed for the first time. If all of that packaging came in honeycomb packaging instead of styrofoam, that would be the equivalent of saving 1.56 billion water bottles. So it's pretty impactful. And again, it demonstrates that where the hotel industry really has the power to not only meet the expectations of all different stakeholders, but to truly make an impact, it does come down to partnering with the manufacturers and working with them to provide upstream solutions so that it's not up to individual properties to have to manage the challenges that come with waste and energy efficiency and water conservation and the like. So the last slide, for those of you who want to learn more about the story, we encourage you to come to Defining Hospitality and listen to the podcast. Dan Ryan is fantastic in his Defining Hospitality broadcast, but also he is one of the principals of Bourbon Falk. So he's got an inside scoop when it comes to this. So Jen, over to you.
Thank you, Joanna. Well, those are two really tough acts to follow. This is really incredible statistics and speaks to the power of purchasing. So for us, sustainability, we were asked in the beginning to kind of define sustainability or share how we think about it. For us, sustainability is really about making choices today that strengthen, not deplete, the future of people. So the future of people, communities, and resources. It means sourcing and operating in ways that really create lasting value, reducing harm, restoring what's been overlooked, expanding opportunity if and when we can. And at its best, sustainability isn't a constraint. It is an opportunity to evolve. It's a smarter way to do business. It's a more human way to do business, and it can really drive both impact and performance, as Joanna shared with some of those amazing statistics. So if you take a look at global hospitality procurement, it's close to 6 trillion in terms of global dollars spent by the hospitality industry to procure goods and services. So it's a huge number. It's a huge amount of spend. And so what we and everybody on this call is really focused on is how can we be super intentional about those business practices to drive impact and change in all ways we can. And the three experts on this call are doing it in some different ways. So we're going to share a video here in a second. I'll give a tee up to this video. It's a case study of Procure Impact's model in action. And it's going to share a story about the Postcard Cabins brand. The Postcard Cabins brand is a Marriott brand managed by Hotel Equities, and a supplier partner that we formed a partnership between this brand and the partner to solve an operational challenge. They were having an operational challenge with one of their guest amenities. I won't steal the thunder of the video. I'll let them share with what we've created for them. So we were a solution partner for an operational challenge they were having with a s'mores amenity that they were providing to all the guests at Postcard Cabins. And it was a beautiful way to forge a partnership that employs and empowers the resettled refugee community. So without further ado, we will show the video.
I am Jenny Graff, and I am the CEO and part owner of Stroopy's Incorporated, and we are at the Stroopy Working Center on Vine Street in Lancaster City. Stroopy's are a cinnamon waffle with a homemade caramel in the center. We make approximately 7,500 Stroopy's a day. We were founded to provide meaningful employment for resettled refugee women. And what we're most proud of is that we offer an employment social enterprise program for the women during the paid workday. And so they get a chance to learn English, work on their life goals as they're starting over in a new place and build a new community and family. For a refugee, they didn't want to have to leave their homes, but because of war or natural disasters, persecution, they had to flee their homelands. Oftentimes going to a resettled refugee camp where they kind of are in a holding pattern. And then, Lord willing, then they would get resettled to a permanent home. At Stroopy's, our dream is that the women that work for us would find a new community, they would find new friends, they would find renewed hope. Life has been really hard, but it's not the end of the story, and that there's new chapters to be written. We were formed to provide meaningful employment while creating a profit. And so our profit is super important because it goes into paying our English teachers, and it goes into all of the programming that we do as a part of the paid workday. So we're super motivated to have a business that's producing incredible product, so that it can benefit the women that work on our team. And we also have like 80 women on our wait list that would like to be a part. Khadija came to us from Syria, and she's been a super valued part of our team.
When I moved Syria, go to Egypt first, and then come to Lancaster. It's very hard for new life, new language, and new work, new people, new friends. Yeah, so much hard. But when I work in Sweet Shop, I am feeling better because everybody here helped me for learning English, make friends very fast. I love it.
The reason why I've been motivated and I haven't given up over all these years is that there's something so beautiful about offering what you have in your hands, to see it be used to help other people, to have great partners like Procure Impact that represent us and get our story out and allow us to share Stroopy's more broadly with the US is truly an honor and a gift. When we got the call about postcard cabins, it literally was an answer to prayer. They're buying our Stroopy S'more kit. I can't tell you how humbling it is for a small social enterprise to have partners that believe in what we're doing, and not only believe in it, but put skin in the game with us to see things launch and to move forward. I really don't even have words for what that means to us, and we're very, very grateful.
Now I want Stroop waffles. I want some Stroop waffles.
They're pretty delicious. Stroopy s'mores are even more delicious. So yeah, thank you for allowing us to storytell and share that incredible case study of our work in action. A few things to note on that, just from a business perspective, and I know we'll talk about what consumers are looking for and what corporate partners are looking for, but because we've created this adorable, amazing, delectable, and super cute Stroopy s'more for postcard cabins, it's become a viral amenity for this brand. So we have seen marketing ROI that is like a marketing goldmine. We have seen tons of social posts, none of which we have asked for or encouraged at all. It's just guests are getting these adorably packaged gable boxes, Stroopy s'mores, and just so happen to be empowering resettled refugee women in consuming these s'mores. But it's become a real marketing goldmine, a surprise and delight for guest experience. And so this brand is kind of known for their s'mores amenity at this point. And so it's been a really fun project to work on. And so yeah, go and stay at a postcard cabins and grab a Stroopy s'more and let us know how you like it.
Well, this is great. So now that we've set the framework on our perception of sustainability and wellness, we're going to move into some more interactive discussion amongst our panelists with a short Q&A. And again, feel free to add questions in the chat that Ben, our production assistant, is going to filter to us, and we'll do our best to address them. And we do have, there's actually one question that I want to start with, in talking about how does the hospitality industry's purchasing decisions have a significant impact on wellness in our communities? And I think all of our panelists can really kind of offer some insight into that. Lisa, do you want to kind of start?
Sure. One of the most exciting things that's happening today from an architectural standpoint and sustainable sourcing is mass timber. You are probably going to hear a lot about this structural system in the upcoming years. One of the biggest challenges with our built environment is the use of concrete. So pretty much when concrete is readily used throughout the world because the raw materials are pretty much readily available. You need sand, water, and lime. And concrete accounts for 7 to 8% of our global emissions. So the amount that we can reduce our dependence on concrete significantly reduces our emissions. And so we are looking at new structural systems to reduce the dependence on concrete. So with mass timber, it is basically using timber from well-managed forests, meaning fast growth trees, which are considered a renewable resource, and laminating them into structural timbers, columns and beams. And we can build up to 18 stories using a mass timber structural system. So if you think about this, these laminated beams are inherently beautiful. They have the natural look of wood. So from an interior standpoint, it really resonates with occupants, particularly for hospitality and multifamily residential. This is all prefabricated off-site. So it takes a lot of planning up front, but it significantly reduces the construction duration. So it reduces waste. It makes for a very quiet job site because in order to erect it, you're basically bolting these timbers together. So not only is it going up quickly, it's also reducing the noise and disruption in our communities. So this is an amazing building system, and it is just really starting to get traction. We're here at the hotel school at Cornell. We are looking into developing a prototype using this mass timber construction to help to promote it within our built environment within the hospitality industry.
So Joanna, with MindClick, you were sharing, when we're doing new build construction, right, and the impact of the packaging of the materials to get to the site. We actually had a question from the audience, from Kate. She was curious about the resale repurposing of outdated hotel and restaurant furniture, and thinking about, you had shared previously in one of our calls the impact of the built environment with emissions. Do you want to share a little bit more about it and maybe talk about what does it mean maybe in a situation where we're having to repurpose? What do we do with all of the stuff that we have?
Yeah, it's a great question, and sort of piggybacking off of what Lisa was talking about. When we look at what the industry is evaluated on, the embodied carbon is a key metric, and embodied carbon is basically a simple way to think about it is imagine that you've built a cabin in the woods, and you have lots of trees around you. You've got a wood burning stove that you're feeding for your food source and your heating source. So you go down and cut down a part of the tree and you feed the wood burning stove. That's your scope 1 emissions. That's basically the emissions that you've generated on site. Now it doesn't cover everything that you need. And so you have your local utility that you're getting your energy from. That's your scope 2 emissions. So now think about your cabin and all of the products that you purchase to enjoy living in your home, right? So all the furnishings and the food products and your apparel and your cosmetics and all these things, right? all of the energy that it takes to um, extract the materials that go into creating those products, to manufacture them, to distribute them, to get them to you, all of that is what goes into what's known as embodied carbon. So what's interesting is that when you take a building and turn it upside down and shake it out, all of the products inside contribute significantly to greater carbon emissions than even the shell and core of a building over multiple iterations in that building. So our industry has a built-in business model that says every 7 to 10 years we need to we like to say products ugly out before they wear out, right? So it's a fashion industry of some sort, and there's a desire to give it that fresh new look to make hotels more appealing. But there's a cost on the other side of that, right? Obviously there's a cost to replace those materials, but there's a cost related to the disposal of those materials, and there's a cost related to the amount of carbon emissions that are associated with them. So I wish that there was a turnkey answer to the ability to resell and repurpose all of this furniture. The industry works really hard to try to solve for this. And that includes working with nonprofit organizations, working with the secondary market to resell the items that they can. And just as the term adaptive reuse has emerged for taking existing buildings and rather than tearing them down, retrofitting to turn them into hotels, you can also think of the opportunity for adaptive reuse to be applied to products that are already in a hotel. So Highgate Hotels, it has a property in Hawaii called the Twin Fin, where they, instead of replacing the case goods, they actually brought in a team to give them a fresh look. And not only is it a positive sustainability story, but you can imagine the cost savings, right? So the team at Highgate actually coined a term called "we want to twin fin every property," and to the extent that they can refinish existing furniture pieces, that there's a desire in the industry to do that. But that starts from the very beginning of how are products made in the first place? Are they made in a way that supports the ability for that, adaptive reuse, if you want to call it that, or the refinishing to be able to occur? And that's starting to change in our industry as people think about how do you extend the longevity of especially these very big items, such as case goods that take up a lot of space and have a very big footprint, if you will. So I do want to address one other part of the question that you asked about, which is the wellness factor. And we really do see a convergence happening between sustainability and wellness. And I really love what the fact that Cornell is leading the academic world in this. There's a big wellness story that is associated with hospitality. And that wellness is supported, you can think of it almost as an everyday wellness. We do know that hotels that feature wellness services are able to charge a premium to the consumer. They tend to be more of your high-end luxury spa-like retreats, but there's an opportunity for every hotel to participate in the wellness economy, which, by the way, is growing at double digits and is already close to $7 trillion, right? So when you think about all the products that consumers buy to take care of their health through food, through cosmetics, through apparel, the fitness world. I mean, there's an enormous amount of money being spent on this, and particularly with today's core generation of travelers. So the way that hotels can support this today is when choosing the furnishings, interior furnishings, the FF&E, there's a tremendous opportunity to choose products that are free of VOCs. And VOCs affect indoor air quality. And when you think about the service business that we're in, what is the number one thing that everybody wants? A good night's sleep, right? And part of a good night's sleep comes from being in rooms that are designed to help with that. And that comes from choosing products that are better for our health. And interestingly enough, I love sharing the statistic. it's so ingrained in the consumer's mind that we're starting to see it in how consumers are promoting the homes that they're selling. So Zillow did a study last year. They do this every year, looking at how are sellers marketing their homes and what are the top topics that they're featuring. And of the top 5, I believe it is, the number 1 or number 2 was wellness. So what are the wellness features that the home is offering? And then within that range as well were questions or I should say comments around how the home is designed in a way that is resilient and supports a changing climate. So it's really interesting to understand how consumers are connecting to this concept of wellness in other parts of their lives. And it's reasonable to think about what they would expect in their hotel rooms. And a big part of this is simply working directly with the design firms, the purchasing companies, the manufacturers themselves, and saying, what are you doing in the way in which you're making our products, the products that are coming into these hotels that support that wellness story that in turn the hotel can share as a way of differentiating their property and not only support the sustainability questions that are being asked in RFPs, but also tell the story to the guest.
So I wanna bring Jen into this perspective as well when we talk about, this idea of wellness, this idea of the consumer and amenities that are being offered. Procure Impact is a very interesting, model, and you look very specifically for products that are prepared and created by underserved communities. And the impact of what you've done with Procure Impact, with connecting small producers into a huge market, is amazing. Do you want to share a little bit about what Procure Impact, is, how it's impacting communities?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, we strive to increase wellness in communities by turning everyday purchase decisions, especially in hospitality, into a force for economic opportunity and human connection. So on the economic opportunity side, as Heather mentioned, we originally started this business with what are called employment social enterprises. And I did not know about this whole magnificent world when I worked in hospitality. I've learned about the whole world of social enterprises through my co-founder and her background, and then through building this business, because we really started our supplier base with employment social enterprises. So those are all organizations that employ a community that's experienced a barrier to work, and they make products that are used by hospitality. So we work with veterans, refugees, adults with disabilities, trafficking survivors, formerly incarcerated, et cetera, about 10 different communities within the world of employment social enterprises. We've also opened the aperture of our supplier definition to include brands that give back, and also mission-driven, local and diverse suppliers. So we have over 100, we have hundreds of suppliers on our marketplace at this point. Some of them are small and some of them are not. So this is another thing that kind of surprised me. A lot of our suppliers can really produce at scale in ways that were unexpected for me coming into the business. So we have, the suppliers that are making bath and body products, that are doing candle runs with Whole Foods and coffee runs with Costco. I mean, our suppliers really have the opportunity or the ability to manufacture at scale in ways that I think the public probably doesn't think about. So we network the products together, sell into hospitality, foster human connection. So on the hotel side of our platform, hotels are looking to create spaces and places of belonging. That's inherently what hotels do. They host people. We really foster these spaces and places of belonging, and you want your guests to be happy. You want your guests to, hotels are looking to be differentiated in their brand and brand story. And there's a lot of competition to get heads in beds. And so we are an easy button for thoughtfulness and care. We are also an easy button for local sourcing at scale. So we can help provide a local sourcing solution at scale. One story, Heather hit the nail on the head. I am the container of many stories. And so another story of our business model in action is we have a supplier called Mickey's Popcorn. They are in Memphis, Tennessee. Black female-owned business, woman-owned business. And Dr. Penny Mickey is her name, and she makes a Tennessee caramel whiskey popcorn. They make a Kentucky bourbon popcorn. They have a charcuterie popcorn. They have popcorn in a bunch of different flavors. And she employs all domestic violence survivors in order to make this popcorn. So at last count, she was employing 46 women for this business model. And there's a woman named Jasmine who I got to learn Jasmine's story. And Jasmine is the mom to 7, and she was disconnected from her children. All 7 kids were in the foster care system. And in order to get her kids back, she needed a 4-bedroom house, because you can only have the way they look at CPS looks at or not CPS, excuse me, the foster care system looks at reuniting. They look at, heads in bedrooms. So she needed a 4-bedroom house. And through her work and economic mobility at Mickey's Popcorn, they helped her be reunited with all 7 of her children, to get that 4-bedroom house, to be reunited with her children. And so it's just a success story of the economic mobility and what the power of these organizations can really do in changing lives.
I've had that popcorn. It is so good.
It sounds
It's really good
delicious.
popcorn, and it makes
It's
for a fun,
amazing.
like, old-fashioned garnish, and
Yeah.
it's delicious.
Oh, wow, that
Yeah.
sounds great.
Yeah, it's fun.
So I think we've kind of talked a little bit about it, but very specifically, the idea of trying to identify what exactly are consumers looking for, but also looking at what is the corporate buyer looking for. So I think, Jen, you're sharing about the community connection, the importance of the impact economically in these spaces. And then Joanna, you were talking also about, people's perception of places where they're staying. What about from the specific corporate buyer standpoint? I think both Jen and Joanna, your businesses have that component of trying to understand what are orgs looking for, and then how do we make that connection to the consumer. So do you want to share a little bit on that?
Sure.
Sure. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Joanna.
I'll jump in. It all is, the corporate travel buyer is being driven by regulation that is coming out of the EU, that is saying that we recognize that a tremendous amount of impact is coming from the supply chain. So regardless of whether you are headquartered in the EU, if you are doing a significant amount of business in the EU, you're expected to be reporting on what you're doing to manage your supply chain effectively, or make purchasing choices that take into account the efforts for reduction in carbon emissions and beyond. So there are frameworks that have been established, and the Global Business Travel Association has partnered with leading organizations to help the industry get alignment around what the metrics are by which hotels are being evaluated. And this is a big number. There are 50,000 global enterprises that fall under this, EU regulation, which means that they're having to report on this. And so what's happening is that we now see that 90% of corporate travel buyer RFPs are asking hotels about their sustainability efforts. And again, there's quite a bit of standardization that finally is now happening, which is making it easier for hotels to respond, because at least there's consistency in theory. However, there's still a lot of variation in how those questions are being asked, the format in which they're being asked, and so on. So we're starting to see the emergence of platforms, one of which here in the US is Allo Index, and they are aggregating the individual hotel answers and scoring that, so then it makes it much easier. I like the word easy button for those procurement folks to be able to quickly compare hotels through the lens of sustainability, in addition, of course, to the rate and locations and lots of other factors that go into the decision making. We are now at a point, Heather, where that data has advanced far enough that we are seeing shifts in buying behavior or awarding of contracts based upon sustainability performance to the tune of $1.3 million in a case study of 5 hotels that did not have the sustainability data that was needed to show up and performing well. And they were swapped out for 5 who did. And interestingly enough, the 5 hotels that did offer it were actually at a lower rate. And so that corporate buyer saved $1.3 million. That's a big, big deal. That is a game changer for our industry, right? Because anybody who knows the world of procurement knows that what's most important to procurement leaders, you save money every year. Like the bar is constantly being, you got to save more every year, right? You got to be compliant. And in the case of corporate travel, it's you got to make sure that your employees, your travelers are happy. So to have 2 of those and even 3 with the kinds of things that Jen's organization is doing, that Lisa's bringing into her work, the kind of work that MindClick does, we're able to connect the dots between a great guest experience and leadership and sustainability. And the opportunity, this is part of the work that MindClick is doing. MindClick's been involved with over 50 hotel projects in the last several years, $750 million worth of purchasing, analysis, and guidance that feeds directly into the ability for hotels to report on sustainability. So we're helping to eliminate the labor-intensive burden of how do you answer all these questions, because most of these questions have either a direct or indirect connection to the choices that are being made in procurement. So it's pretty game changing to be at this point. And for those who think that, we're not in the world of sustainability or perhaps responding to some of the green hushing that's occurred, when it comes to 20 to 40% of an average hotel's business is coming from corporate travel buyers. So it's a number that hotels have to take seriously.
Jen, what are your thoughts?
Sure. Well, those numbers are really incredible. We think a lot about economic opportunity and how we can help enhance that. And having worked on the ownership side of the business for the first 20 years of my career in a financial asset management capacity, hotel owners and brands, they want to win. There's a lot of competition for heads and beds. There are new brands coming out all the time, every day. And so the competition for revenue and for people's attention is as fierce as it's ever been, and it's not going to get any easier. So they also want the data. And so part of the beauty of Joanna's business model is the ability to track. And so we also created a really simple impact tracking metric. And on the social side, because we fall less into environmental and more into kind of the social side of the equation. And so we created an impact statistic because every purchase on our platform creates shift hours of work for underestimated populations, and we track that. So I'm making up the math now, but if you were to buy $400 worth of brownies through our platform for your minibar or your marketplace or your coffee shop, we can tell you at the hotel level, we can tell you at the management company level, we can tell you at the ownership level, and we can tell you at the brand how many shift hours of work that purchase creates for underestimated populations. Our corporate partners are also looking for ways to live out their values. So most every hospitality company has some value around investing in its people. We are a very people-y business. So we are people taking care of each other at the end of the day. That is the heart of hospitality. And so we make it easier for our hotel partners to really live out their values in terms of human connection, pouring into people, and supporting and empowering local communities. And then on the guest side of things, I just recently read a study that came out of NYU that said that brands that have social sustainability claims in the way they market and language perform 23% better than brands without that language. And so the guest is looking for story, they're looking for impact, they're looking for how they're what are their dollars going towards. Now more than ever, you see this with guest preferences in terms of how they're spending their money, who they're spending their money with. And so we are, again, trying to be an easy button to bring those stories, and the social impact and the local and community impact in a very, very, very easy turnkey way for hotels to implement.
Excellent.
Piggyback on the data side of this because Jen's spot on, and we did a study with Marriott following a renovation where we told the guests about how the purchasing choices were supporting health and wellness, local sourcing, Jen, right in your world, right? And when we did a controlled study. So some of the guests saw the communication and others didn't, staying in this property the same period of time. And we compared based upon demographic and the reason, whether they were there for leisure or business travel. There was 150% increase in the guest satisfaction scores as a result of the guests getting exposure to the story. And what was really interesting, back to the great points Jen is making, is that they equated it to service. And they said a hotel that is going out of its way to choose products that are better for me, that take care of my community and the environment, that tells me they're going to take good care of me. And that's a hotel that I want to stay at. That's a brand I want to be affiliated with. So there's real power in what Jen's organization and what Lisa's leading on the timber and what we're all doing, tied directly to procurement.
To piggyback on that, because I know Marriott's been an incredible partner for probably all of us, definitely Joanna and I. I was in DC last week, and the Marriott HQ Hotel, they have a like a digital mini bar through us, and it's all so behind the front desk at the Marriott headquarter hotel. It says Marketplace with a heart, and they've got QR code to a whole host of products through us. And the amount of text messages, a lot of my orbit stays at that property, and a lot of the industry does. They're like, I'm eating your raspberry gummy fish, and all this stuff is sourced through you, and this is so fun, and this is so amazing. The other thing we've done is we've included a few things, really simple things, granola bars, protein bars, etc., into Marriott Bonvoy amenities, because they're giving away these amenities anyway, and so just shifting spend into the hands of those who are employing formerly incarcerated or refugees or what have you is a really simple way to empower local communities to get those GSS scores up, because they hear about it from the guests. Like, just you're putting marketing in the hands of everybody you encounter by partnering and doing business in this way. So yeah.
So I think right now the idea, we've highlighted some really interesting things, and something we talked about in our prep calls was the importance of kind of best practices. And Lisa, you had shared something in our discussions, and you actually teach a class on visioning for our students here at the hotel school. Can you talk a little bit more about storytelling?
Yeah, and just before I do, because I was so inspired by hearing some of the statistics and data that actually backs up that people are willing to pay a premium for these meaningful connections. And thinking about the mini bar, lots of times people will think, oh, I'm being overcharged for a candy bar. But the fact that it has a story behind it, or a story behind the products, makes people so much more engaged and willing to participate in that. And it makes it so much more meaningful for them. So getting back to best practices and creating a hotel concept that is meaningful and tells a story. We all know that, when people are traveling for leisure today, they want to learn more about a location, but also corporate travelers, which we just spent a lot of time talking about, which is a huge portion of our industry. They want to have more meaningful stays as well. And it's really about quality of life. If you are going to, travel, it's exhausting, you're leaving your home. When you choose some place to stay, you want to stay in a place that you feel cares about you, the true essence of hospitality. And when they see these meaningful stories, they feel like people truly care about them. So when we design a hotel concept or develop a hotel concept, it is deeply rooted in location. One of those things, one of the important things that does is that it makes the concept more timeless because it is connected to something real. Joanna was talking about how furniture tends to ugly out or date quicker than it wears out. And if you have a more timeless concept that is rooted in location, that very much increases the longevity of the design. You may have to change out colors and materials, things that wear out, but your rooted concept, it's connected. I would say that the icing on the cake in a hospitality project really comes to the artwork program. And that has tremendous power to differentiate a hotel. When you're choosing between 3 hotels in a certain city, the artwork program can create something that is very connected to location. And so we try to develop artwork programs, employing local artists that really give economic opportunities to those artists. They provide an opportunity for storytelling, but it also presents an opportunity for programming. You may invite artists into your hotel for certain workshops, meet and greets. You might have gallery nights, and all of these things create a much more local environment where you actually are becoming a part of the community. And so when people visit a hotel like that, they feel like they're part of something more. It's more than a stay. It's an invitation to be a part of the community. And so those types of experiences, whether you're traveling for business or leisure, really resonate with the guests. They have the potential to differentiate, drive revenue, draw locals into your hotel. Locals are a really great way to round out your revenue generating potential. During times of low occupancy, if you develop, a concept for a local bar, food and beverage outlet that has a strong connection to that community, they are going to continue to help you drive revenue at times when in January, when we all know that occupancies in hotels are very
Really
low.
low. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we are almost at time here, but I wanted to do a quick round robin before we finish up. How do we start? How does our audience start? So what's that one key takeaway quickly of how we can start? So I'm going to start with Jen.
Sure. I mean, it depends on the audience member, I suppose. But I would say for all things, you can just email me if you're interested in partnering with us and hearing more about our work. I'm sure we'll share our email address and contact information in the show notes. It's jen@procureimpact.us, JEN. I'm a 1N Jen. And so the Procure Impact website is procureimpact.us. And so would love to hear from you. And so, yeah, that would be the easiest place to go. So we can figure out who the audience member is and how we might be able to partner or relate or inform.
Joanna.
If you're an owner or a management company and you're wanting to figure out how do you respond to these corporate travel buyer RFPs and really demonstrate your leadership in sustainability, definitely reach out because we'll help you do that by understanding the impact story associated with the products that you've purchased. If you're in the vendor community, particularly focused on the FF&E and building materials, and you want to make sure that your products are the ones that owners and management companies and their design and purchasing firms are associated with, are aware of that, we invite you to join the MindClick network. And then if you're in the procurement and design world side of it, we also work closely with you to help you ensure that the choices that you're making for your owners and management companies are in fact supporting the need to respond to 20 to 40% of the revenue associated with these hotels. So mindclick.com, and my direct email is jabrams, ABRAMS at mindclick.com.
Lisa.
Yeah, I know that all of this can seem really overwhelming, particularly to an owner that is thinking about renovating or starting a new project. I would say to set your sustainability and wellness priorities early in the planning process and focus on a few key initiatives that you can accomplish. Because not only is it important to take on those initiatives, but also to tell the story. As we've discussed today, it's not just about doing the work, but telling the guest about it.
Excellent. Well, thank you for taking the time out of all of your busy schedules to join us today as we explore the ideas and practices that you can adopt in your professional arena focused around sustainable sourcing and hopefully spark some additional initiatives and innovations. A big thank you to Joanna, Lisa, and Jen for coming together and sharing your insights in a fascinating presentation. We hope to see more of you at future Cornell Institute for Healthy Futures events, so please check back on our website or sign up for our newsletter to be informed about any upcoming programming. Thank you again.
Thank you.
all.
Thank you.